Hi everyone, welcome to the Rugby League History channel. Today I'll be doing another rivalry video, and this is going to be part of the Are They Rivals series. I've done a few videos on this topic. It's in a playlist, go check it out. I've done such videos as Melbourne against Canberra, Sydney Roosters against Penrith, and Parramatta against Brisbane. Basically, these videos are where someone in the media says that these two teams are massive rivals, or you might get people online that see that these two teams are massive rivals, and I look at the history between the two clubs and I either go in favour of what they're saying or I debunk what they've said. So tonight's video is going to be another one of those. And the two teams I will be featuring are Cronulla against North Queensland. This is a fixture which in recent times a few people have said that it is a bit of a rivalry, so I'm going to be looking at the history between the two clubs and making my own conclusion. So with Cronulla, since North Queensland ended the competition in 1995, there's been 55 meetings between these two sides. Cronulla's won 36 of those, North Queensland have won 19. The first meeting between these two sides was on the 10th of June 1995. Cronulla beat North Queensland 34 points to 10 at Shark Park in front of 5,128 people. North Queensland's first victory over Cronulla came the following year on the 26th of June 1996. They defeated Cronulla 16 points to 10 at the Al Dairy Farmers Stadium in front of 22,014 spectators. Looking back over the entire history of this fixture, North Queensland have recorded the biggest ever win between the two sides. In 2005, they defeated Cronulla 56 points to 14. After North Queensland recorded that victory in 1996, Cronulla would dominate the fixture, winning the next 12 games against North Queensland in a row between 1996 to 2004, until North Queensland won again in the mid-2000s. Between the 2004 season and the early 2010s, North Queensland actually had quite a decent record against Cronulla and picked up more wins than they did in the first part of their existence. However, since 2015, North Queensland have only beaten Cronulla 5 times in the last 21 meetings, and their last win in an actual league fixture, this is not a finals game, was in March 2018. Now, in terms of geographical location, these two sides couldn't be any further apart. If you're not from Australia or you haven't been there, there's 2,097 kilometres, or for us in England, 1,303 miles between these two sides. Of course, North Queensland are based in the town of Townsville, up there in North Queensland, and with Cronulla, they're a club that's based in the Sutherland Shire part of Sydney. So unlike other teams that have a close proximity to each other, say like South Sydney and Eastern Suburbs, this one's on the opposite end of the spectrum. But this is where things get interesting in this fixture, especially with the finals matches. The two sides have played each other 5 times in the finals. Cronulla's won 2 and North Queensland have won 3. The first meeting were in 2013. It was the elimination final, and Cronulla won that match 20 points to 18, and one of the tries was scored off a 7 tackle set, and that was scored in fact by Bo Ryan, who later went on to be on the Footy Show. He was previously with the West Tigers club. Also, towards the end of that game, with about 20 seconds to go, North Queensland shifted the ball to the left hand side of the field and Kane Lynette grounded the ball. North Queensland thought that they'd won the game, but Kane Lynette's foot had touched the sideline and therefore he were out, and Cronulla progressed to the next week of the competition. Of course, the North Queensland club were deeply hurt by the loss against Cronulla, and especially with that call of the 7 tackle set. It was a referee mistake, and Jonathan Thurston had some very strong words about it, and also Neil Henry said that there was a conspiracy against North Queensland. 2 years later, in 2015, these two sides met in the elimination final up in Townsville, and North Queensland put on quite a performance. They defeated Cronulla 39 points to 0. The following year, in 2016, these two sides met in the preliminary final. Cronulla won that match 32 points to 20 to book their place in the grand final, And I think that the scoreline were quite flattering because I think at one stage Cronulla were up 32 points to 6, but North Queensland got a couple of late tries in that game. Of course, the following week Cronulla would win the first premiership in their history, defeating Melbourne in the grand final. And once again in the following year, in 2017, these two sides met at the Sydney Football Stadium in the elimination final. North Queensland won this 15 points to 14 after extra time through a Michael Morgan field goal. Of course, with that year in particular, North Queensland went into the match having no Jonathan Thurston, no Matt Scott and a few other key players, and they were pretty much battered and broken, and they made the grand final that year and ended Cronulla's premiership defence. And remember, watching the game, Cronulla got very close to winning it at a couple of stages, but North Queensland managed to win through that field goal. And just last year, in the 2022 qualifying final at Shark Park in week 1 of the final series, North Queensland defeated Cronulla 32 points to 30 in extra time, courtesy of a Valentine Holmes 2-point field goal. With that game as well, it looked like Cronulla were going to run away with it. They were up by about 10 points, I think, with less than 10 minutes to go, until Connor Tracy for Cronulla was sin-binned and North Queensland put on a fight back, and of course they stole it in extra time there through Valentine Holmes. Just going back to that 2013 final as well, in the years afterwards, what really stoked the fires, I think, between North Queensland and Cronulla was especially with Bo Ryan, because he were on the footy show. I remember on a couple of occasions, not every week, but he did it once or twice, he would remind people of that 7-tackle try, and he wore it as a badge of honour. He kind of laughed about it, how he got away with it. And I think I remember on one occasion Jonathan Thurston was either on the footy show or being interviewed, and Bo Ryan was kind of trying to bring it up and laugh in Jonathan Thurston's face about it. So I think no doubt that would have made a lot of North Queensland players and the North Queensland club very upset with Bo Ryan. In terms of direct player transfers between the two clubs, there hasn't been that many since 1995. One of the first players that I wouldn't say it was a direct transfer, but he was the inaugural captain of North Queensland, Laurie Spina. When he last played in the New South Wales Rugby League Premiership, he played for Cronulla. But other direct transfers between the two sides, since 1995, you've got Scott Brown, Dion Cope, Jeff Bell, Paul Green, Tim Madison, Dean Weston, Anthony Watts, I'm pretty sure we all remember him, Luke Harlan, Matthew Wright, Valentine Holmes, and Chad Townsend. Now, the biggest ones out of all those would be definitely Paul Green and Valentine Holmes. With the Valentine Holmes thing, like Laurie Spina, it wasn't a direct transfer, but Valentine Holmes was a Cronulla player originally. He was contracted with the Cronulla club, and he ended up leaving the club controversially. I think he had about 2 years left on his contract, and he decided to go to the NFL, like what Jared Hayne had done before. But he went over to the NRL, and at the time Paul Gallen had some very choice words to say about Valentine Holmes and his decision. Of course, Paul Gallen come under fire for these comments that he made about Valentine Holmes, but I'll read out what he said, quote unquote. "It's been a dream of his, which is great. I push guys to pursue their dreams without a doubt. But the fact is, he had 1 year left on his contract, and we don't get this far in this game, or any game, without your teammates. And Val left us. He walked out on us, which I find very disappointing. He's won a premiership with us. He's been our best player. But the way this has happened, I'm disappointed. Not only does he have a Sharks contract, he has an NRL contract. Now, the NRL are always on about integrity in the game. I don't see how this is good for integrity of the game. A bloke breaking a contract with 1 year to go and just walking out in the club and the game. I think it's got to be a 2-year minimum ban out of the game, if not forever, if you walk out on your contract." So no doubt when Valentine Holmes would have come back to the NRL and signed with North Queensland, obviously that would have left, I think, a bitter taste in some of the Cronulla players' mouths, but especially with Paul Gallen. And he come under a lot of fire for what he said, because he basically tried to push for the NRL to ban Valentine Holmes for a couple of years for breaking his contract. I also managed to find some other comments from other players that have spoken about the Cronulla and North Queensland game. The first is from Wade Graham. He said, "I think there is definitely a rivalry there." He said, "When you face a team so many times in such big games, you can't help but generate that competitiveness between the two sides." And in an interview a couple of years ago, Michael Ennis said, "Losing to North Queensland 39-0 in 2015 certainly left a bad taste in our mouth, and it was one of the catalysts to push on in 2016 and win the premiership." In 2013, the Paul Green medal was introduced into this fixture. As we all know, Paul Green was a former Cronulla player, and he played for North Queensland, and he also coached North Queensland to the first premiership victory. He died last year, and as a result, the two clubs come together and said, "We're going to do the Paul Green medal, and it's going to be awarded to the best player on the ground." And the first match where this medal was up for grabs was the game earlier in the year where Cronulla won 44 points to 6, and Nicholas Hines was the inaugural winner of the Paul Green medal. So after talking about the history between these two sides, is Cronulla against North Queensland a rivalry? I would definitely say there is something there between these two sides. Would I say it's on the same level as St George against Cronulla or North Queensland against Brisbane? Absolutely not. But especially over the last 10 years, with those finals matches, the 7-tackle try, Valentine Holmes leaving Cronulla mid-contract and then ended up at North Queensland, it definitely adds something to these fixtures, along with both sides fielding origin players from New South Wales and Queensland. This is a different type of match because most rivalries are determined by a geographical location, or it's a class thing, example, working class against upper class. But this is solely based on what has happened on the field, because I think you couldn't find too many teams geographically that are this far apart from each other. But I will say, compared to other videos I've done, this one has more merit about it, and I would definitely say that there is something there, and this could potentially be a rivalry in the future. At the moment, I would say that it's more of a grudge match. There is a lot of history there, but who knows in the future, especially if the finals games keep going the way they are and some of the regular season matches between these two sides, this could definitely be a rivalry in the future. So that concludes my video on our Cronulla and North Queensland rivals. Let me know in the comment section below if you think this is a rivalry. I think there's definitely something there. There's a lot of potential there, but just let me know in the comment section below what you think. And like I said earlier, I've got a playlist of these videos, so if you're interested in this topic, go and check out the playlist. I've done quite a few videos on this topic, so thanks for tuning in for this video, everyone. If you like Rugby League history on YouTube, go and check me out on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. But anyways, this has been Rugby League history, and I'll catch us all later in the next one. Alright, tatty bye for now.